NewGenGamers.com.
Now, something I have to say about this is that the fact that this thing failed was mainly due to poor decision making at Sega. Now, they were basically split into two divisions, their US division and their Japanese home office. The thing was, they didn't get along very well, apparently. And
that music just kicked in at the right dramatic moment.
The Japan office was developing the CD-based Saturn. And they told the American company, the Japanese head, which I can't remember his name right now, but I have it in the text.
Which text would that be, Ray?
The Console Wars of the Past text article, which we'll have tied in with this.
That you should check out on NewGenGamers.com.
You want to try it, Duck?
Yeah.
So Duck's going to take his hand at this. Okay, so the CEO tells the Japanese team to make a replacement for the Sega Genesis. He also tells the American team to make a replacement for the Sega Genesis without telling either team that the other team is creating this similar product.
It was like a race to the finish!
Exactly. And the 32X didn't end up winning that battle.
Now, here's the downside to this, B. Most third-party developers that were making games for the 32X, or going to, got their 32X development kits around the same time they got their Saturn ones. Which basically means that they had to choose between which piece of hardware they wanted to support. Guess which one won out? The actually newer technology of the CD-based Saturn.
Boy, this is terrible.
And also what's interesting is they started the development of this machine, the 32X, and then the CEO of Sega at the time, he was just having them make this hardware, and so then he decided, well, a CD system would be good too. But the problem with that is you can't expect a mass market product to sell that way. You can't sell the same product twice.
Yeah,
when it's not necessary.
That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to sell two
32-bit consoles
at the same time, essentially.
For $200 a pop. Well, the Saturn was $300. 400 at launch.
So if you wanted the 32X and the Saturn, you would have to pay $600.
So this...
Now, well, let's get this. Okay, the 32X went to market in November of '94, and the Saturn was launched in May of '95. So essentially, the 32X had a 6-month life cycle.
And a 11-month development cycle.
That's not good when your life cycle is shorter than your development cycle.
Yeah, really, and especially when the development cycle was ridiculously short. They didn't plan it out very well. They didn't put the machine together very well. Developers had trouble programming for it and complained about it, and nobody wanted to support it. Very few people did. And every game we're looking at here was made by Sega. There was very little third-party support. You guys want to move on? I think we've probably seen enough of this.
Let's move on.
You know, this is one of the better games for the system. Not a bad racing game.
It does have some of the best games for the console.
And it doesn't play bad.
Which is not saying a whole lot.
Alright, moving on here. We're going on to Star Wars Arcade. Now, this one was done in tandem with LucasArts. And they actually made an arcade game for it and ported it over to the 32X. This was one of the better games for the system.
Hence the name Star Wars Arcade.
Yeah, makes sense.
So here you can play either the 32X Super Enhanced version or the original Star Wars arcade
That's
game.
what we like to see, gentlemen.
We want the extended and more challenging levels of the 32X, because it's extreme.
I take the X-Wing.
Now, this was an American developed game. Listen to this. Well, there wasn't much to it, but there was some limited voice acting.
Ooh. Check out that.
This is the power of the 32-bit processor.
It's got some really good graphics for being a cartridge-based system.
And it was a dual processor-based system as the Saturn was, and that didn't work out very well for Sega with their systems because they didn't develop them to work together.
Yeah,
and
basically only Sega could develop the best games for them.
Yeah, everyone else just ended up making little use of the hardware and just getting the stuff done because that's what was needed with how short the system was in creation and on the market. Now,
with the life cycle being so short, I believe they had about 30-some games for it. I want to say 36. I think it's the official number.
So, a very small library, mostly from Sega, and does that include the CD 32X titles?
Yeah, because they were they released 4 of those.
Okay.
But those were actually CD games.
Yeah, so there were games that you had to have the Genesis, the Sega CD, and the 32X in order to play, and only the richest kid in town had all 3, and he wasn't going to let anyone else play.
Yeah, he was the same kid with the Neo Geo, so...
So hardly anyone played this thing. Only 200,000 sold worldwide.
Oh, nice. Another view.
Oh, we get multiple views.
Which doesn't surprise me, considering it was only on the market for 6 months. What do
Now,
you expect?
Now, one thing we can say about some of these games is they were 3D, at least Virtua Fighter and Star Wars Arcade, which we're looking at here. They are truly 3D games. They may not be that impressive as far as texturing goes, but they're not bad. You know, this is decent. Obviously, the background is just space, but you know, considering what they had to work with, it's not bad.
Yeah.
This game had 3 levels. I read that it has the TIE Fighter level in the Astrofield, which you're seeing now. A level where you have to destroy the Super Star Destroyer and an Assault on the Death Star, because you must have that.
Yeah.
I just want to add that in. It doesn't play bad. I'm playing it right now. It's I don't know, it kind of feels like Star Fox a little bit, but more free roaming, kind of like Star Fox Assault. I mean, and it's basically you just shoot. It's asteroids in 3D. That's the way I'm going to say it right now.
Basically.
Yeah.
You know, and not a bad take on it. Now, as far as the lore of this game was developed in America, and one of the members of the team was a fellow named Jonathan Brandish, and if you look him up, he's also synonymously known as his pseudo character Johnny Turbo. And Johnny Turbo was
pretty much synonymous with the Turbo graphics.
He was propaganda for the Turbo Duo video game system. He was a character created for a comic advertisement that appeared in some gaming publications. And
Katina music.
There you go. And so
the Mos Eisley Band.
So if you want to read a hilarious story, look up the history of Johnny Turbo. I'm not going to go into it all here, but it ties in with it because it is a real guy, and he did help develop this game, and he is, we assume, a loser.
Welcome to the next level. New Gen Gamers.com.